But the fact remains, the truth will be revealed at some stage. It'll come out. All the drama, man, in the sport. Listen, let's focus on something quite positive. Do you perhaps dream of furthering your studies abroad in another country, but it just seems out of reach? Well, this morning, Leanne's got a story that might just make that dream of yours a reality.
Now, if you're a high school learner, particularly in the higher grades, you're approaching the stage in your life where the responsibility of where your life may end up now falls upon you. And it is advisable to go for the best opportunities you can. Enter Crimson Education, a successful international education and mentoring consultancy that has just started operating in South Africa. And we have country manager Duncan Parsons in studio to tell us more about the ways in which you could end up studying abroad or even on a scholarship. Duncan, so good to have you in studio.
Thanks very much,
morning. So you are one of Crimson Education's students. You are part of it, the very first students. Do you want to tell us what kind of opportunities it provided you and where you've been able to take Crimson Education?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from New Zealand and I grew up there, actually quite a rural part of New Zealand. My dad's an apple orchardist and no one from my school had studied overseas. So I wasn't in an environment that was particularly conducive to studying overseas. But I knew that it was something that had there was some awesome opportunities and I was really ambitious and wanted to go for those. And essentially came across Crimson. I stumbled across it more or less. At that point it was very small. I was one of the first students and got support from mentors to go through the applications for US universities. So I actually worked with a couple of students at Harvard and subsequently was accepted to Harvard and Stanford and study in the US on a scholarship.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it was really transformative for me, basically unlocking that information barrier. And then ever since I've worked for Crimson, so in a number of different roles. So we've opened offices now in a number of countries and I've been involved with Singapore and Brazil and India and now South Africa. So it's really exciting to
where were you guys when I was in high school? Because I remember really wanting to study abroad and see the rest of the world. But to get serious for a second, the Global Parents Survey expressed that when it comes to South Africans, many parents feel that there's a very dim perception of South African education when it comes to the rest of the world. What kind of opportunities are there for us and how do we get involved?
Yeah. So the great thing is that the universities, US and the UK, love South African students, and they know that there's just so many bright, ambitious students, and so that's why they're willing to accept internationals, including South Africans. So it's really exciting. But the biggest thing I mentioned is just the information barrier. It was the same thing I had that all international students really have. It's just the unfamiliarity with the application process. But as I mentioned, a strong South African applicant has every opportunity to study overseas.
Fantastic. I feel like we're so underrepresented when it comes to UK and US universities. Is that the case and why so?
Yeah, it is the case, and it is because of that information barrier and also just not knowing how to be a competitive applicant. Some people don't take the first step just because they know that, or you just don't know what the outcomes might be, and it's a big decision and it's a big commitment to study overseas.
So how does a South African student get involved and apply?
Yeah, so you apply the same way as other internationals. It's an application portal. There are a number of different aspects. For the UK, it's much academic focused, and for the US, they're really interested in who you are. So your personality, what you bring to the table to the university, your experiences, extracurriculars, as well as your academics. So the first step is really just looking at universities, and there are so many beyond just the ones we know about, like that are household names. And then finding the right support as well to just unlock that and know how to be a really strong applicant.
And will our qualifications be accepted on that side?
Yeah, absolutely. So in South Africa, obviously the IEB, NSC, and then some schools do the A-level IB. So absolutely,
Oh, that's exciting. Duncan, thank you so much for opening up a world of opportunities, not just for South African students, but for their parents. And of course, we want to be able to see the world and get an education at the same time.
Absolutely.
Oh, that is so exciting. Now, if you are a parent or a high school learner who's interested in working towards an opportunity to study abroad or to increase your chances of a premium tertiary education here in South Africa, then you can visit crimsoneducation.org to get more information. I wish this was around when I was younger.